friends, my name is Kelsey and welcome to Adho Yoga's Beginner Yoga with Kelsey series. Today I'm going to teach you the down dog breakdown, which sounds like it would be a dance, but actually I'm going to break down the pose Adho Mukha Svanasana for you. This is a pose that's very common in yoga classes, and hopefully by the end of this video you feel more confident in your downward facing dog. Let's get started. Okay, so before we come into downward facing dog, let's build up the foundation of our downward facing dog. So let's start in tabletop pose. Hands come underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. Spread your fingers nice and wide as they can go, and press firmly through all of the knuckles and all of the finger pads in your hands, as though you could grip into your mat. Like if your mat was sand, your hands and your fingers could actually dig down into the sand and create an imprint. And then building our foundation from here, press the earth away from you. Feel your shoulder blades spread across your back body rather than feeling your chest dipping down and your shoulders coming in towards one another. So maybe let this happen. Just feel the difference between your shoulders coming in towards the middle of your upper back body. And then press the earth away from you and feel the shoulder blades spreading. This is the engagement that we want in downward facing dog. Also, elbow creases are shining directly towards the front of the mat. And navel is drawing up towards the spine, engaging through the core muscles. Lengthen your tailbone towards the back of your mat, flattening out the low back a little bit. You know, we all have that little curve in the low back, that's okay, but what we want to avoid is a big dip in the low back, right? And then press down into the tops of your feet. And just breathe here for a couple of moments and feel the strength and stability that you have from this foundation that we've built. And then we'll start to warm up our core and the muscles that will help us come into our downward facing dog through a hovering table pose. So you're going to tuck your toes under as though we are going to come into downward facing dog. Remember, pressing the earth away, draw the navel up and in. And then press into your feet, press into your hands, lift your knees and let them hover. We're just here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew, okay, maybe you sit your hips back on your heels for a moment after that. Let your wrists have a little break. Soften your shoulders away from your ears. And then let's come back into our tabletop pose. Build your foundation again. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Press firmly through the finger pads. Let's tuck the toes under. It'll be different for everybody. We all have different bodies, and that's a wonderful thing. So personally for me, I like to walk my hands just a little bit in front of my shoulders, pressing down through the hands, all the fingertips. Spread the shoulder blades apart from one another, shine the elbow creases forward, and then press into your feet, lift your knees, and then lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, so once we get into our downward facing dog, our hips are above our heart. Your heels may not touch the ground, that's okay. You may have a bend of your knees, that is also okay, because what we want to really prioritize here is the length of our spine. So if it feels like you're all bunched up here in the upper body and really rounding your spine, try to bend your knees closer in towards your body, like you're trying to bring your belly towards your thighs. Lift your hips up high. Lift your tailbone. Remember, spread shoulder blades apart from one another. Press firmly through your finger pads. And then maybe you start to let the heels be heavy. Now, you can still have the bend of the knees even with the heavy heels. Over time, perhaps you can straighten your legs, but if you start to straighten your legs and you feel that curve coming into the back again, bend into the knees again. Prioritize the length of your spine. Let's take just one more breath in here. And exhale, lower your knees down. Take a seat on your heels for one more moment. Roll out your wrists again. That's a lot of pressure on the wrists. The pressing through the finger pads and the gripping into the mat does help the pressure in your wrists over time, and it will strengthen your wrists over time. And now let's come into a downward dog one more time. Come into your tabletop pose. Build your foundation just like we did at the start. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Press the earth away to spread the shoulder blades apart. Shine your elbow creases forward. Navel drawing up and in. Tuck your toes under. Take a breath in. Exhale, press into your feet, press into your hands, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. And then scan through your body, keeping in mind all of these little components we've talked about, pressing through the finger pads, spreading the shoulder blades apart from one another. Sometimes it helps to think about maybe your shoulder blades hugging into your armpits. Lengthen up through your spine, lifting your tailbone. If you feel that rounding of the spine, remember to bend your knees in towards your body like you're trying to touch your belly towards your thighs. And heels may or may not touch the earth. It's not a requirement. It just might happen or it might not. And head is heavy here, so you're not looking towards your hands. You're really just letting the neck be relaxed, and the head is being the neck is being tractioned by me. Sorry about that. The neck is being tractioned by the weight of your head. Shoulders are coming away from your ears, even though you're pressing the earth away from you. Let's take one more breath in here. And exhale, lower down to your knees, and take a seat once again. And one of my favorite ways to wind down after downward facing dog is just to take Balasana, child's pose. So all you have to do is widen your knees apart from one another. Your big toes are touching each other. And sit your hips back towards your heels. Walk your hands forward until your forehead rests down on the mat. And just start to let your breath wind down to its natural pace again. Release any tension that might have built up in your upper body. And let your pelvis be heavy. Any point in a yoga class, if your body feels tired and you don't want to do downward facing dog, Balasana, child's pose is a really great alternative. So I hope that this video not only helps you feel empowered in your downward facing dog and gave you some new things to think about whenever you come into your downward facing dog, but I also hope that you feel empowered to take a different option if downward dog isn't the pose that's best for your body on some days. Once again, I hope this video helped, and I will see you next week in our next beginner yoga with Kelsey practice. Thank you. Namaste.